Want to learn about writing picture books and learn about a supportive community that can help you get your picture book project published traditionally? Then this is the show for you. My name is Tonya Duncan Ellis, and I am an author and host of Write This, an author interview show. And today I am pleased to welcome Julie Hedlund, picture book author and founder of the 12 by 12 Picture Book Challenge. Julie she provides a treasure trove of information on her 12 by 12 challenge, and I have learned so much from her personally over the years, and I'm thrilled to have her on the show. I just went live a minute ago and popped off, and she was having trouble joining, so I'm going to send her an invitation right now and see if we can get her on here. She's here, so we're going to get her on. She'll be on here in a second, and if not, I'll get off and give her some instructions on how to come live. She may be having a little bit of technical difficulties, but thank you guys for joining us. If you have questions about picture book writing or the 12 by 12 challenge, please post them in the comments and I will share them with Julie. I know she's on Instagram right now. I just communicated with her a minute ago, but she's still not here. So I may have to pop off in a second to give her more instructions on how to get on, because she's still not here. Instructions because she's having difficulty signing on. So I'll be back in just a second. Okay, it's saying she's unable to join. So she's somehow, I don't know what is going on. She's somehow here. I'm inviting her. Okay, she's saying that she joined. So she's here. Yay!
I'm here.
Yay,
Sorry
you
about
made
that.
it. And that's the beauty of life.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'm sure it was all me in terms of not knowing what I was doing, but here we are.
Yay, I'm so happy to see you, Julie, and congratulations on your new book.
Thank you, and congratulations on yours. I saw the sneak peek at some of the illustrations. It's going to be amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. And I was telling my husband, which his eyes glaze over when I'm always going through all the stories, but I feel it's like serendipity, because when I wanted to write that book, I've told you this before, but I found videos from you when I was trying to learn how to write a picture book, because I had just written chapter books, and then binge watched all your videos on some little free mini course you offered. And that got me on my way. So I'm going to be asking.
I love that. Yeah, those mini lessons are still available for free on my website. So I'm so glad that they made such a big difference. That was sort of my kind of pandemic project that I did.
Yeah, that helped me so much. So I so appreciate you and your in the supportive community. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But can you tell us about your writing in your newest book?
Sure. Well, it's kind of right there behind me, but I have it here too. My latest book is called Song After Song, The Musical Life of Julie Andrews. And this is a picture book biography that covers primarily Julie's childhood years in terms of how her voice was discovered and how she became the star that she is today through a lot of hard work and quite a bit more trials and tribulations than I expected when I set out writing it. But I'm so in love with it. I know it's probably not appropriate to say that about your own book, but it took me such a long time to get it published, and some days I still can't believe it's actually here, you know?
Right. And then I saw the interview where you did a book talk on 12 by 12, and you shared, so you're acquainted with Julie Andrews' family, right? You're friends with her.
Yeah. Yes, Emma Walton Hamilton is her daughter and a dear friend of mine, and we have been working together, gosh, for at least 12 years now. I met her through children's book writing because she and her mom co-author picture books and middle grade as well. And once I started reading picture book biographies, I fell in love with the genre. I was learning so much and I couldn't believe how much information could be packed into these picture books. And I couldn't believe that nobody had written one about Julie Andrews. And I asked Emma, why aren't you and your mom writing this? And she said, no, we're not interested. We're not going to. And they were working on her adult memoirs. And I said, well, do you mind if I try my hand at it? Which is, as they say, famous last words,
That is amazing. And then did you watch the Sound of Music and all Julie Andrews movies when you were growing up?
Absolutely. Sound of Music is probably my favorite movie of all time. I mean, I can't even count how many times I've watched it.
Right. But I mean, that explains why you would even be attracted to the project too. So
yeah, definitely. It was such a huge part of my life growing up and family tradition. We always used to watch it at Easter when it came on, and and Mary Poppins too, but Sound of Music was definitely just threaded into the fabric, as it were, of my childhood. So
now, when you wrote the book, have you met Julie Andrews herself, or what did she say about the book?
I have met her, and I always say that she is absolutely as lovely as everybody would imagine her to be based on her films and her interviews. Until the book was finished, we actually did not talk about the book. I met her before, like as I was writing it, just as Emma's friend. And we didn't talk about it at all. She knew I was working on it. And then after it was finished, I was there this summer teaching a class with Emma, and we saw her, and she said she thought it was lovely. And I just about, my heart just about exploded when she said that. Yeah, and she gave me a hug, and that to me was like the best review I could ever get. Never mind anybody else.
Yes, that's wonderful. And what does your family say about it? You said it was part of family traditions watching her movies. How do they feel?
Well, I mean, my daughter is thrilled because I passed along my love of Sound of Music, and also, I think kids in the generation, like millennials and Gen Z are more connected to the Princess Diaries, which is kind of funny, but like they have the same feelings about those movies as I did about Sound of Music. But yeah, I mean, my brother and my mom and my extended family, they're all like, wow, so I guess I've finally done something that makes them, appreciate the work and everything that goes into writing a book, so.
Now, something that occurred to me, you said it took 12 years to write this. So was this book the beginning of the 12 by 12 challenge, or had you started it before then?
Actually, it was about 10 years. I've known Emma for 12 or 13. And I got so I say that from idea to the book being available was 10 years.
Oh.
And so it took me about 8 years to get it sold, basically. It went through so many iterations and rounds of submission, and I feel like, I have published other books, but I feel like I really cut my teeth as a writer on this book. you know, and I had never thought about writing a biography or, and I was naive. And I think if I had known that what I was getting into, I might not have, I might not have proceeded, but I'm obviously really glad that I did. And it's a wonderful genre. And I'm in awe of people like Nancy Chernin, for example, who just writes so many picture book biographies and they're all wonderful. And I'm just like, how do you do that?
That's amazing. Now, here's the question that occurred to me. When you're writing about someone who is alive, do you have to get permissions, or how is that? Because people have asked that before on the show.
Yeah, you don't if the person is a public figure.
Okay.
So, you know, what I get that question obviously every time I talk about this book, or anytime I'm in attendance on a, you know, workshop about writing picture book biographies. And the thing is, and this is an answer that, you know, people want something definitive. But the truth is, yes, you can write about somebody who is a public figure without getting any permission. But you, as a writer, have to really address yourself in terms of what kind of story you want to tell. And you get to make the decision as to whether or not you're going to request information from that person. It's not so much permission as it is, you know, getting feedback, maybe interviewing, maybe getting access to documents or primary research that wouldn't otherwise be available to you. And when you do that, in the process of writing is totally a personal decision and also maybe driven a little bit by the story. So I know people who have waited to contact their subjects until they've gotten, you know, almost a full, like, final draft, and or they have a publishing contract already. And I know people who have done reached out like from the outset, which is kind of what I did because of my friendship with Emma. I knew that it was exceedingly important to me that I write something that would do her mom's work and legacy justice. It was a very daunting thing, actually. So, and sometimes I'm like, I still can't believe I pulled it off. I mean, you know, there, like, so many people know and love Julie Andrews. But so yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying that even though you don't need permission if they're a public figure, then you still might want to reach out and, you know, contact them, ask them for, you know, permission is a big word, and you don't necessarily want to give them creative control, you know, in any way, but definitely for getting facts, making sure you, I mean, one thing you definitely don't want is the subject of your book, if they're still alive, to be critical of it in public, you know, right? So if it's not a public figure, that and the person is still alive, you probably would need permission.
Okay, yeah. That's interesting. And another thing, do you find that most people who are writing about a historical figure or public figure have a personal connection or some kind of tie? Or do you think that's better, or does it matter? Or
I would, I mean, I've only written one and I'm kind of working on another couple, you know, but I haven't really fully committed yet. I think what I learned in the process of writing this book is there better be some reason why you are passionate about telling this person's story beyond, oh, I think this would sell and make a good picture book biography, because you are going to eat, live, breathe that person's life, you're going to take rejections are even more difficult with a picture book biography, because you also, I guess speaking for myself, I shouldn't say this is true for everybody, but you feel like the person you've written about is also being rejected.
Oh.
So it's a bit of a double whammy, you know? And it's emotional in a lot of ways. And I would not recommend taking that on. And I don't think that you could be successful taking that on unless you're really passionate about this person's story being in the world, you know?
Right. Right. That makes sense. And you're right, with all the rejection and the lengthy process and everything that goes into getting any book out.
Right.
Then,
And all the research, and you're really, in order to write a great picture book biography, you really have to delve into the emotional life of the person as well in order to get that emotional resonance, you know? So you're already have sort of peeled the layers back, you know, on themselves, and then you're also on them, and then you're also kind of having to expose yourself in the way that you do with all writing, you know, kind of putting your heart into it and on the page. So yeah, it's interesting. It's very different from writing fiction, or even other types of nonfiction.
right, right. That sounds cool. I'm so excited about the book. It's a beautiful book. Can you show it one more?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I love
oh,
the
and
cover.
also, if you'll indulge me, I like to do this too, because this book has undies, which is a case cover that's different from the jacket cover. And it's always fun to, hang on, I have to get it going. It's always fun to expose the undies, as it were.
Oh, ooh, that's
Isn't
nice.
that cool?
How did so they decided to do that, or how do you get that? Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't, the author typically has no involvement in that whatsoever. So I feel very lucky that the publisher decided to do that. And this is all Ilaria Urbanati, who is the beautiful illustrator of this book. I didn't even see this until well into the production. And when I saw it the first time, I cried because it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, the publisher will decide, and then they work with the art director and the illustrator to create whatever the case cover underneath.
Okay, well, that's like a work of art.
It is all by itself, right? I mean, it's a whole, you know, and the back is different too. So
That's
yeah.
cool. Now, someone asked what the price of that is. Now, that was traditionally published, so you didn't really pay for that. So, you don't really know?
I didn't, but I do know that it is more expensive.
Right.
So if you, like, for instance, with Overbear underwear, which is right there on my shelf, that one initially was going to have undies, and then they decided not to at the last kind of, because for cost reasons. It was, you know, still toward the end of the pandemic and everything. So I think a lot of it is, you know, what their P&Ls are for each
Right.
book, and where they're putting the book in terms of, I mean, who knows the mystery of how publishers make these decisions. But
And that's the profit and loss. And of course, this book's about Julie Andrews.
right.
And so, you know,
I think they were considering it more or less one of their lead titles for this season. And that goes into it. That goes into it too. Um, I'm seeing this question: do you find that undies boost attraction to your book? You know what's interesting about that question is that hardly anybody knows that it's there, but I use it almost as a performance tool. like I just did, you know, so when I'm doing school visits and gosh, a couple weeks ago, I guess 2 or 3 weeks ago, my publisher sent me to the Mountains and Plains Independent Booksellers Association conference. And I did this author speed dating thing where you go from table to table and they're just full of indie booksellers, right? And you go and you get 4 minutes to give a pitch, and there were like 14 tables. So, you know, I was one of 14 authors, and we'd sit down at the table and pitch the book, and they'd be taking notes, and it was like, on some level it was sort of scary, but on another level it was a lot of fun. And, you know, but at the end of each one of those sessions, I was like, all right, now I get to do my party trick, you know, and I would pull this off and they would all go, oh, it's so beautiful,
Yeah.
you know? So I don't really know I mean, it's a good question. And I'd be interested to know whether publishers think that by doing that, it's something that draws more interest. I know certainly my experience has been every time I show somebody, they're very, you know, impressed.
Right.
Which I feel a little guilty, like I'm not guilty, but just like this has absolutely nothing to do with me other than, you know, I wrote the book. And but Ilaria Urbanati, who's an incredible illustrator, makes beautiful use of these silhouettes throughout the book. So you can see here, her mother is sending her to London away from her father. And, you know, you get this in the clouds, and it's sort of a nod here to the bag, you know, the guitar and the bag of Sound of Music. And so throughout the book, she uses silhouettes like that to deepen the storytelling. Yeah.
Now, we have just a few more minutes left, and I wanted to talk a little bit about your 12 by 12 challenge, because I know there's only certain times in the year where people can join. So,
yes, it's coming up. It's hard for me to believe. Sorry, there's a big airplane flying over. Yikes. I don't know if you can hear that. I always hate that. But anyway, it's open in January and February. And as you know, being part of the community, it's really an amazingly supportive, warm, generous community of almost 2,000 picture book authors and illustrators. And our goal is to write more, to be more prolific, because as picture book authors, we need to write a lot to find those diamonds in the rough. And, you know, but even if you end up not writing 12, so it's meant to be like one per month, which is why it's called 12 by 12, one crappy draft a month. And then you have stuff to work with, you know, because you can't revise a blank sheet of paper. And we all know, you know, for sure that really writing is all in the rewriting it, but you have to get those drafts onto the page first. And we do that. And so we have a lot of, we have webinars every month. We have book chats now. You're going to be a guest of mine next year. I can't remember which month exactly.
July
yeah,
next year.
Because now we have so many people who are publishing. So we have everybody on the whole spectrum, you know, of being brand new writers to being, you know, multi-major award-winning published authors, and everything in between. People who are querying and people who are having their debut books come out. And so it's really a wonderful place, I think. And I've seen a couple people, thank you for those of you who are 12 by 12 members, who are here and giving your love in the chat. That's awesome.
And it's really helped me too, because actually I was thinking as you're talking, my upcoming book, They Built Me for Freedom, I had it in the 12 by 12 forum when I was working on it. And then I have other work, like my agent was saying, oh, you need to show, let's try to shop, you know, your editor wants to see some more. So I had that work because I was working on different things in 12 by 12. So
Yeah, that's the thing, you know, is that it's like when you're getting an agent, especially, they want to see more than one piece, right? Because picture books are more expensive and they make less money. And so they kind of want to know that you're in it, you know, that you're committed to it. But then also with the editors, you know, like once I found this to be true because I'm a really slow writer, you know, and I'm trying to speed up. I'm trying to eat my own dog food, as it were, and, you know, produce more. Because once you have a relationship with an editor, it is really nice if after that you can send them something else, you know, because they're more likely to pay close attention to it if you've worked with them before. So yeah, it's good to have lots of stuff in the hopper at all times.
yeah, it's a very supportive group. And I've met other writer friends, or even in that forum, you can put your full manuscript and get feedback from critique ninjas who are other writing professionals. Those are so helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm so glad that I mean, I love that you initially found me through the mini lessons just because you know, I put a lot of love into those. And I'm thinking that at some point, you know, with all of my endless amount of time, I might expand those into like full course, like a course for each one,
Oh,
you know.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, so for those of you, if you're wondering, I did a series of 12 mini lessons on different aspects of writing picture books. So there's one on, you know, narrative arc, there's one on humorous, there's one on concept books, there's one on, you know, adult characters, there's one on showing versus telling. And so they were a lot of fun to make.
Yeah, that's good. And there's also webinars on the 12 by 12 where you have all these different authors and people talking about different types of picture books, graphic novels, and all writing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We learn a lot. We're even for me, it's like even by osmosis, you know, I feel like just constantly learning, which is also important, and constantly reading.
right, right. So it's been a great, I just want to thank you because you've helped so many of us make our dreams come true.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I love that. I love that. And I cannot wait to be turning the tables next year and talking to you about your picture book. Your first picture book, right?
Yeah,
Not your
that's
first.
new picture.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
exciting.
I know.
And
Yeah.
I fell in love with writing picture books from the challenge because my agent took me for, and I had just joined the picture book challenge in the meantime and started writing picture books. So I really enjoy it. So I'm
Yeah.
glad I.
It's a kind of addictive, you know, once you start writing them, you just want to keep writing them. And people, I'm always in awe of people who write longer form, even though writing picture books is so challenging because, you know, they're so short. But I'm that might be, I'm
Get
at the
out.
point where I can't, it's daunting to think of having all that space, you know, to write so much more. But
Yeah, and I'm going to wrap in a minute. But another thing that happened with me is after I was doing so many picture books, now I'm working on a novel in verse. And I never thought I could do it, but now that just I'm used to writing in that way from writing with the picture books.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because when I think about maybe branching out, and I kind of think about novel and verse too, because it like I guess we're sort of attached to having limits,
Right,
you know.
right.
Uh,
Really odd. Yeah,
yeah,
once you start picture books. It's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for having me, and it's a lot. I'm I'm just I love your channel. And wait, do they call it that in Instagram? I can't remember. I'm kind of a
My
your
page.
yeah, yeah. Your Instagram, I guess. I love it, and you do such a great job, and I can't wait for your book.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for taking the time to join me. I know how busy you are. And where can people reach you again and connect with the 12 by 12 challenge?
Yes. So my website is juliehedlund.com. So just my name and .com. And 12 by 12 is 12 by 12, no spaces, 12 by 12 challenge.com. So hopefully easy to remember. And hopefully some folks will join us who want to try it out next year.
Yeah, it's a great deal. Not too, it's like $150.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap for,
Yeah.
I think I do my absolute best to keep it, affordable. And it's a year-long program, and you get 12 webinars, and you can put as much work in for critique as you want. And so, yeah.
It's great. It's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Julie. Thank you, everyone who has tuned in. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Write This.
Yay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.